Impact Audio presents Unwoke by Ted Cruz, read for you by Timothy Andrés Pabon. This book is dedicated to my father, my tia Sonia, and my abuela. In my family, the original freedom fighters. Prologue. His white linen suit was stained red with blood. Blood that had been beaten out of him with a club regularly each hour, breaking his nose, shattering his teeth. Scarlet red blood, as if his suit were emblazoned with the color of the Marxist revolution of which he was a part. As my father lay on that prison floor, crumpled and broken, not a spot of white was visible on the now torn and tattered suit he had been given for his 17th birthday. Instead, mud and dirt and grime and blood. To this day, my dad remembers what he was thinking in that dark hole. Nobody depends on me. I have no wife, no children. It doesn't matter if I live or I die. 3 years earlier, when he was just 14, my father had made the fateful decision to join up with the revolution in his homeland of Cuba, to follow Fidel Castro. My dad was young and ignorant and naive. Rafael Bienvenido Cruz didn't know Castro was a communist. He didn't know the horrors that would befall the Cuban people at the hands of his new comrades. He just knew that the then dictator of Cuba, Fulgencio Batista, was corrupt and cruel and oppressive. As Francis Ford Coppola immortally chronicled in the Godfather saga, Batista was in bed with the American mafia, enjoying wealth and power purchased with the blood beaten out of the Cuban people. Born in Matanzas, a small Cuban town named for the brutal massacre carried out by the Spaniards more than 4 centuries earlier, my father grew up in an idyllic island paradise. My grandfather, my abuelo, Rafael Cruz, had grown up as an indentured servant on a Cuban sugar plantation. In 1918, at 18, Rafael left the plantation, accepting the offer of $5 and a sandwich to board a bus and go vote for a local politician. He slept on the floor of a fruit stand on the beach, where he got a job sweeping the floors. As the years passed, he became a salesman for RCA, the American company selling the new and miraculous inventions called televisions. Over time, he would become the top-producing RCA salesman in Cuba. He met a fetching girl, Laudelina, who was 11 years his junior. She was a 6th-grade teacher, beloved by her students for her compassion and meticulous care in teaching them each day. Together, their firstborn son was my father, who arrived in 1939. My dad was an excellent student, like his mother, with a natural gift for math. By the time he was 14, he had been elected to the student council and was a leader in his school. Years later, I too was on the student council, but we concerned ourselves with school dances and the food in the cafeteria. In Cuba, in the 1950s, the concerns of student council members were more fundamental: revolution. Fidel Castro, the charismatic revolutionary guerrilla, had been a student council leader at the University of Havana. The children who followed him were, as my dad puts it, 14 and 15-year-old boys who didn't know any better. Marxist revolutions have always begun with the children, young and idealistic and passionate, and oh so unaware of the vicious perils that await them. Teenagers can easily be swept up in the currents of revolution. My father joined up and began doing acts of sabotage, burning government buildings, throwing Molotov cocktails, whatever he could to undermine the oppressive regime. That's what had landed him in prison at 17. Batista's police had caught him, and they were extracting their brutal revenge. The next day, he was dragged into the office of a colonel who told him, "I'm letting you go, but if another bomb goes off, if another fire starts, I'm blaming you." "How can I be responsible for every bad thing that happens in the city?" my father asked. "I don't care," replied the commandant. "I'm holding you responsible." When my father returned home, my abuela wept. Her eldest child had walked in the door beaten, covered in his own blood. As she told
Sample complete. Ready to continue?